So throw this video a like if you do, dislike it if you don't, let me know what you think of my picks, and as always, if you have another top 10 idea, then make sure you leave it down in the comments. So part of the reason why this was hard to figure out and put together was because there's two different things here, how easy they are to play on one side, but also how hard they are to master on the other. So we're having to throw both of them together to put them in order. So at number 10, we're going to be kicking this all off with a Syndra. Two factors here, right? Easy to play versus hard to master. She's not that easy to pick up in the first place, but is harder than a lot of champions to master. Remember for this video as well that we want the easy to play on the one side and hard to master on the other side. Now there is a decent amount of mastering that goes into a good Syndra player. Your main damage spell is a low cooldown skill shot with a time delay, so you need to be hitting them consistently. Syndra does love to have as many balls as she can get her hands on. Her ultimate does more damage based on how many balls you have down. E can stun multiple people if you aim it correctly, and it's a lot about consistent damage. When you first play Syndra, you can still have a decent impact without really hitting your stun or even your Q every time, honestly. Your ultimate does a butt ton of damage anyway, and she is very strong in lane, which makes her a little bit more forgiving. Number 9 is going to be Kalista. She's actually not too difficult to play to start with, but mastering her definitely pays off. Her hop is something completely unique. It seems really strange, but actually after a game or two, you'll get used to it and be hopping all over the place. The mastering side of things really comes from her rend, mainly her E, the hopping, and her ultimate a little bit. The biggest thing that actually makes Kalista deadly when mastered is her ability to just run at you, stick a few spears in, and know when her damage is enough to kill you. Judging rend stacks really comes down to experience more than anything. Sure, you can actually look at how many is in the target, but how many people can really watch everything? Watch the fight, look at the top of the screen for a tiny icon to check how many, then work out how much damage that is. I'm willing to bet hardly anybody can do that, maybe if you're Korean, I guess, but most of us just take a good guess based on our experience and what we think will be enough. The hopping is also something that, while simple to use, can be a lot more effective if you use it properly. Hopping to the side, angled, or backwards to kite is a choice you're going to have to make that can make a big difference. Number 8 is going to be Katarina. I think she's pretty easy to play and kind of hard to master. This is definitely one where the easy side of things is bigger than the mastering. When we're talking about how easy she is, it's more looking at how like you just Q, jump in, press R, and then hop around to kill everyone. The mastering side of things is mainly mechanics though and knowledge based. Knowing when to go in and when to do things is a big part of playing Katarina. First off, once you actually get past the face roll part of just pressing R, if they're not dead, you actually need quick decision making and mechanics to hop around to everyone, press W and Q quickly before hopping to another person. The other side is actually knowing when to go in, like when is a good time, and I'm going to count this as the mastering, kind of the knowledge side of Katarina. Any crowd control instantly shuts you down. People save their abilities specifically to shut you down, and you're low health and you're easily killed. This is really where choosing the right time to go in really makes the difference between a new Katarina and a good one. Being able to recognize that time and being able to execute on it. And number 7, we're actually looking at a support with Bard. He's pretty easy to play in my opinion, but actually quite difficult to master. If you watch the LCS at all, you'll see how good Team Liquid's Matt is with this guy. The amount of stuns he gets off, the magical journeys, the ultimates make such a huge difference to the game. To have a really basic impact, all you need to do is hit that stun, which is a line skill shot, and put down your heals under tower to help your AD carry. That is not hard to do at all, and that's honestly all you need to do to win a game. Stun and heal. There is actually a ton more to this guy though, like hitting weird ass stuns that don't look like they should, using magical journey to gank other lanes or set up ganks to escape stuff, proper use of your passive to harass. Like Bard actually has a lot of damage with his passive and Q, which can surprise a lot of people. A good ult in a team fight can be amazing, using it on a tower when you dive, using it on a single person to catch them out, or even your own teammates to save them for a bit longer. So number 6 is going to be LeBlanc, or LeBlanc I guess if you're frogging, whichever you like. She is pretty face roll to play, especially in the lane phase, but I actually think there's a fair amount that goes into mastering her. Firing your Q at someone using your W and E is the most simple thing in the world. It's why her lane phase is one of the strongest in the game. It's so straightforward, deals a huge amount of damage, and is very hard to deal with. LeBlanc has mostly always had an increasing win rate, so the more you play her, the more games you have on her, the more before you win basically, and that is where the mastering side of things comes in. Outside of the lane phase, it's actually not that easy to do what you want. You're very low health, you have to choose the right time to go in, the right spells with your ultimate, and you can have absolutely zero impact in a team fight if you mess it up. The lane phase is pretty face roll, we said that, but against harder matchups you'll have to play it a bit differently, and if they start to sit under their tower you'll have to get creative with your roams or ways to kill them. I think we can say she's definitely not that easy to play in a team fight, but she can completely take over a game if you've mastered her. You can juke, you can burst and outplay people in so many different ways. At number 5, we're going to have Lucian, one of the most popular AD carries at the moment, and one of the reasons he's played so much is because he's pretty straightforward to pick up and play. We also have the other side of the player base though, who main AD and main him because he is really rewarding once you've learned him properly. Ability based AD carries in general are a little bit easier anyway, you don't have to get as close and you can burst people down, which is an easier playstyle to play. Lucian though has a lot of animation cancelling, mobility and range to consider at the same time. The animation cancelling with his Q, basically you can use it and cancel the animation, allowing you to move earlier and use that passive. If you've ever wondered why Lucian dash auto into Q auto looks so smooth, this is why. His mobility is another thing. Late game with 40% cooldown, you can actually be dashing all the time if you use your passive correctly, and this actually is not easy to manage while attacking at the same time. These two are definitely the biggest differences between a good Lucian and an amazing one, but we also have things like his short range to manage, correct use of his ultimate. He fits this idea really well of the video, easy to pick up and play, but much more there to him. We're going to stick with AD carries at number 4, and we're going to look at Vayne. She isn't as easy to pick up as Lucian, but she is more rewarding and harder to master. She isn't too difficult. If you can survive the lane phase, then she has a good natural team fighting kit, a reposition, a butt ton of damage, and you won't have any trouble killing people. She is one of the champions that a lot of people just play even if they aren't great with her, especially higher up, because if they can survive lane, then they stand a good chance of carrying the game and having a big impact. That's like her basic level, I guess, but there is so much more that goes into making a good Vayne player. There is a reason why Vayne montages are everywhere. They have so many views and are so cool to watch. You can outplay in so many different ways, like you can juke with your tumble, you can dodge things, you can stun, you have more than enough damage to kite around and kill everyone. Her lane phase is probably the thing that will take the most time to master really. It's not hugely strong, okay, but there are points where you have an advantage. There are times when you can set up a stun and look to go aggressive, and after level 6 she can kill almost anyone if she plays the fight correctly. Top 3 time now, so as always in my top 10, let me know in the comments who you think is going to be here. Remember, these are how easy they are to play and how hard they are to master put together. So the third spot, we're going to have Lee Sin, and let me just say, I think he is one of the hardest champions to master, if not the hardest. As we just said, we're looking at two different things here though, how hard they are to master combined with how easy they are to play. Lee Sin is not that easy to play, let's be honest, okay? Yes, you can just Q onto someone, ult them, and if you're ahead, they'll probably die. In a way, as a ganker and stuff, I guess it is straightforward to have an impact and do things. Team fights though, and later into the game, it's not easy at all, and that's really where the lead you'll probably have earned. Earlier it means less, and you can't carry as easy unless you know what you're doing. This is where the mastery part comes into play a lot more. There are literally hundreds of different ways to do things on a Lee Sin, all with a very slightly different outcome or better in different situations. For example, you can just Q onto someone, right? You can fly at them, auto, and then ult, or you could Q onto someone, you could flash next to them, ult them, and then follow the Q for more execute damage on the Q. Lee Sin is not the easiest champion to just pick up and play, but once you've mastered him, or once you start to master him, you'll be able to achieve so many cool plays. So number 2 is going to be Master Yi, and hold on, okay, before you flame me, hear me out. This is kind of the reverse of Lee Sin. Master Yi is very easy to play, but he's also fairly difficult to master, more difficult than you probably realize. The easy stuff is, yeah, you just right click and go. You press Alt once, you press your E once, and you hit them until they die. That is pretty face roll, so he ticks our first box of easy to play. The harder stuff is stuff that isn't as commonly used. I guess your heal, the W is one of the main things. The first thing is that it gives you damage reduction and a fair amount too, 50% at rank 1, which is massive. Think if you're fighting a Syndra and she ults you, press W and suddenly her whole ultimate damage is reduced by half. That is insane, and it takes some practice to actually time that correctly and use it to block things. The other thing is when you're on the offensive more, you can actually use the W to auto attack cancel. This means that you can auto attack, you W instantly after, which you instantly cancel as well, and you'll be able to attack again straight away instead of waiting for your auto attack timer. So number 1 is going to be Riven. There are so many things that go into mastering this champion, and I am sorry to you Riven mains, but I think she's pretty face roll and easy to play to a basic standard. If you think about how many Rivens have killed you without using their passive, without using their autos properly or their animation cancelling or anything, it's way too high, and she just does so much damage that you can get away with not doing these things. So on the other side though, there are a lot of things that go into mastering her, probably more than any other champion except maybe like Lee Sin, but that would even be close as well. Animation cancelling is a big thing. You need to learn to animation cancel every spell. That's considered like a must-have, a basic requirement to being a good Riven, and that in itself takes some practice.